Incredible twist, Billionaire discovers his ex and their two twins texting for shelter in the cold. Marcus Blake, the embodiment of success in New York City, twirled a glass of expensive whiskey in his hand, nodding politely to the scattering of influential patrons at the gala surrounding him. The glory of his empire felt like a gossamer of pride, yet as he scrolled through social media, an uneasiness crept in. A sudden flicker of text caught his eye. "Need shelter, it's freezing." Ava and Mia. There sat Lily, his high school sweetheart, her children on the brink of despair right before his eyes. Guilt clamped at his heart, a sentimental ache he buried behind deals and dollar signs. He had left them for this lavish life, trading personal connections for profit, and it hit him with an intensity he hadn't felt in years. He felt the icy tension of isolation constrict his chest. Here he was, draped in a tailored suit, surrounded by laughter and opulence. Yet beneath the shimmering surface, the clinking of champagne flutes was doused by his memories. The warmth of laughter from years past with Lily echoed back, reminders of a love left cold. His mind raced. Could it be true? Had he sacrificed everything for ambition, leaving her and their daughters to languish in the city's darkest corners? As the evening wore on, he attempted to shake the gnawing dread. Perhaps he could simply ignore the texts. He and Lily were part of different worlds now. But with every ping of his phone, his heart lurched. The thought of their suffering, the stark juxtaposition of his wealth and their need, clawed at him. How many winter nights had they endured without his support? Would the memories be enough to bridge the chasm built by ambition? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The next morning, the sun barely pierced through the stark canvas of gray clouds. Clad in his crisp suit, he felt like an imposter ready to infiltrate a realm of disillusion he had long ignored. But stepping into Lily's world felt like crossing a line, a leap into shadows he never wanted to acknowledge. He braced himself for the confrontation, for the expected resentment. After all, how could he not abandon them? Was he prepared to see the brokenness Lily had faced for their girls? As he neared the encampment of their life, he encountered the oppressive social silence surrounding those who need help. The shame radiated from each encounter, each judgment a reminder of his retreat into privilege. The richness of his banking world felt sordid in comparison to the raw edges of harsh reality. Would they welcome him, this figure cloaked in monetary success, or would they see through the facade, both daughters wary, knowing him only as an ideal of fearsome wealth? When the encounter with Lily erupted into unleashed fury, her voice a phoenix igniting the air between them, everything he thought he understood began to unravel. She shouted words that seared deeper than any financial burden. Right as he opened his mouth to speak, she revealed not just her pain but a shocking family secret that rattled his very foundation. The shock of her words sent a tremor down his spine, every layer of certainty peeling back to expose a raw nerve of identity. Standing at the precipice of two tumultuous lives, the sound of winter winds held around them, freezing memories and hope alike. Decisions loomed over him, heavy and dark. Could he truly abandon this path? As he grappled with the flickering hopes of reclaimed love versus the devotion to a life built on isolation, the stakes pulsated dangerously high. He felt the icy fingers of regret tighten their grip as he realized one thing: money could not buy back time, nor repair the fissures of family. Marcus stood there, the wind biting at his cheek as he absorbed Lily's revelation. Her words hung like an icy fog between them, clarifying the magnitude of choices he had long avoided. This was no longer a mere confrontation, it was a reckoning that demanded accountability. His mind raced, not with profit margins or stock prices, but with the very real consequences of his absence in the lives of those he once held dear. Feeling an unfamiliar tightening in his throat, he struggled to assemble thoughts in the chaos of the moment. The facade he had built over years felt flimsy now, a shell cracking under the weight of raw honesty. The family secret she had unveiled an unexpected twist that reshaped not just his understanding of her struggles, but his entire identity was a bombshell that shifted the tectonic plates of his reality. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he found himself asking, almost angrily. But deep down, he knew the answer. She might have felt as if he were unreachable, his wealth casting a shadow too deep for her to reveal her vulnerabilities. Each word he spoke brushed against the silent conversations they never had, conversations filled with love, dependency, and ultimately, abandonment. "I didn't want to burden you," Lily replied, her voice strained, yet resolute. "You chose this life, Marcus. I hoped you'd find happiness, but it was also a choice that impacted all of us." Ava and Mia needed a father, not a distant memory of one. The fierce glint in her eyes bore into him, as though searching for a fragment of the man she once loved. As silence fell, the world around them ebbed and flowed with the currents of New York life, a cacophony of ambition and indifference, hope and despair. In that moment, Marcus envisioned a life painted in stark contrasts. His choices echoed in the backdrop of helicopters flying overhead, each one a reminder of the life of luxury he had embraced, as well as the glaring absence left behind. What choices remained for him? He had amassed wealth, strategic partnerships, and accolades, but at what cost? He could see the truth now. The fortress of success had become a gilded cage, isolating him from connection, from love, from family. "I can help you," Marcus heard himself say, a flicker of resolve igniting within him. "I can support you, the girls, if you'll let me." The offer hung in the air, laden with uncertainty. Would she trust him? Would he even be capable of stepping back into their lives without the shadows of guilt, without imposing on the fragile fabric they had woven just to survive? Lily's expression softened, yet there remained a cautious flicker in her eyes. "Support is one thing, Marcus. Will you stand by us? Or is this just another transaction to add to your portfolio?" Each question cut deeper than any accusation, forcing him to confront the burgeoning doubts festering beneath his polished exterior. No longer could he feign indifference. This was the moment where he confronted both his past and a potential future that could redefine him, a chance to rediscover the man he once aspired to be amid the chaos of the choices he had made. "Let me prove it to you," Marcus whispered, stepping closer as a sudden resolve surged within him. "Let me show you that I am still capable of love, a love that fuels instead of drains." Yet as he reached out, the shadows of his past loomed large, dangerous, and unyielding. The confrontation with his own demons was just beginning, and with it came the unavoidable question: could love truly redeem a life mired in greed and self-interest, or was that dream only another mirage drifting further away? With the echo of the city around him and a daunting choice before him, Marcus understood that the path to redemption would not be singular. It would demand awareness, vulnerability, and perhaps even a leap of faith into the unknown. But as hope stirred within, another voice whispered in the shadows the weight of skepticism that insisted on doubt. The stakes had never been clearer, and the time had come to ensure that this new journey would not just take but give in equal measure. As he stood there, poised for the next step, a chilling realization washed over him. He was standing on the precipice of a decision that could change everything. Would he step forward into the light, or retreat into the dark comforts of his past? What Marcus didn't yet know was that the challenges ahead would test not just his willingness to embrace a greater purpose, but his very understanding of what it meant to be a father, a partner, and ultimately, a man. Marcus's heart raced, a surge of emotions pushing against the carefully constructed walls he had built around himself. He stood at a crossroads where opportunity and uncertainty intertwined. The air around him was thick with tension, his mind a rapid-fire carousel of thoughts. Would he be able to withstand the trials that lay ahead? Or was he destined to fall back into the familiar embrace of his past mistakes? The evening sun dipped low, casting long shadows in the alley where they stood. Their surroundings felt oddly juxtaposed to the internal tempest within him, a moment lost in the grind of an unforgiving city. Each life existing around him unfolded in stark contrast to his own, strangers rushing home, families intertwined in laughter, the vibrant pulse of New York indifferent to Louise's struggles. Drawing a deep breath, Marcus shifted his focus to Lily. He processed the myriad of feelings flickering through her gaze. She represented a painfully tangible past he wanted to reclaim, yet the jagged edges of regret threatened to slice through any emerging bond. "Let me help you," he insisted again, voice steady but not overwhelming. "I know I've failed as a father. I know I've failed you. But this is my chance to change that." The skepticism in Lily's eyes was unmistakable. "And what does support look like for you, Marcus? Is it merely financial assistance, or are you prepared to invest time and effort into rectifying years of absence?" The challenge overstayed, forcing him to confront the inherent flaw within himself. Would he ultimately be the same man offering checks instead of presents? The revelation crashed over him like a tidal wave, and he struggled to maintain footing. "I want to be involved, to build something meaningful," he pressed, desperate to anchor his newfound resolve. "I want to be there for Ava and Mia. They deserve more than what I provided." As she observed him, Marcus could see the softening emotions battling against her protective instincts. He realized his own motivations, deftly crafted justifications, were insufficient. This wasn't merely about redeeming himself, it was about nurturing the roots of a family he had abandoned. "Show me, then," she challenged softly, a spark of curiosity mingling with wariness. "Prove that you can be the father who stands by his children." In that moment, he understood the depth of the challenge ahead. He would need to confront not just his choices, but his own shortcomings, the patterns of avoidance that had become second nature. It was a path paved with vulnerability and the unknown. Realizing he couldn't do this alone, he started to plan. He approached their conversation strategically, seeking insight into their lives, their favorite activities, and their struggles. He would prioritize family outings, attend their school events, and find ways to communicate that did not hinge solely on finances. His determination to be present morphed into a tangible reality with each passing day, yet, even as Marcus plotted the big gestures, nagging questions shadowed his intentions. Would daily choices be enough to forge a connection? Underneath the resolve lurked an even deeper fear. What if the effort he put forth crumbled against years of heartache and neglect? As he began to engage, lay down, he felt his heart push against those whispered insecurities. He saw the slow thaw of Lily's skepticism, replaced by fleeting moments of shared laughter and genuine interactions, but the road wasn't without speed bumps. Certain days felt impossibly heavy as cracks were feared to surface, moments when his past collided with his aspirations. As work piled high and emotional vulnerability weighed heavily, he found himself slipping back into old habits, delaying returns, distractions reigniting. The daunting pinnacle of personal transformation lay ahead, the unanswered questions multiplying as he tried to cement his presence. How much of himself was he willing to expose to the volatile terrain of emotions? Would he maintain the tenacity needed to push through? With the uncertainty mounting, he felt the unmistakable urge to confront his demons head-on, an internal reckoning that could establish whether he was the man meant to fulfill this role or reveal that he had only constructed the illusion of it. Late-night reflections tugged his spirit towards fear. He stood at yet another precipice, staring into the horizon ahead, thoughtful about the choices confronting him. There was no certainty. There was no comfort in navigation through the tides, only an ever-present reminder that he would get lost if he let his guard down. While grappling with the profound implications of this journey, he realized his transformation hinged on placing his family's needs before his own, a philosophy alien to a man who had only measured value through financial lenses. Choosing love over ambition would be the ultimate test of his resolve. Within the silent chaos of self-discovery, a flicker of possibility ignited. Maybe he could write a new future. But that question lingered, an insistent whisper. Would he summon the courage to confront the shadows of his past, or would he falter as the ghosts of his choices loomed larger? And just when the dawn seemed promising, a text message ignited turmoil within him, a reminder that the past might still keep its tight grip. "We need your help," it read. The shadows were not through with him yet. Would he answer their call? The glow of the phone screen cut sharply through the darkness of Marcus's thoughts. The message, stark and unyielding, pulled him abruptly from his reflection. It was a jarring reminder of the reality he had tried so hard to outrun. "We need your help." As he processed the words, anxiety crawled across his skin. Luis, his former partner in crime from a time colored with reckless decisions, had not reached out for trivial matters. Their interactions had always carried weight, files overflowing with secrets, plans that were often half-baked and desperately fueled by adrenaline. Now, those fragments of his past were creeping back, threatening to unravel the newfound stability he had begun to construct. He wrestled with the impulse to ignore the message. Leaning into the silence of his apartment, he felt the temptation to forget about the young man still tethered to bad choices. But as he turned a blind eye to that urgent correspondence, another voice emerged, a whisper of responsibility, craving acknowledgement. What did it mean to help? The air grew heavy as Marcus considered the possibilities. He had been so focused on re-establishing himself in the lives of Ava and Mia that he hadn't reflected on the collateral damage of those decisions. Had he even begun to heal the scars left by his own lack of involvement? Turning away from Luis would be choosing ignorance, a route he could no longer afford. Taking a deep breath, he read the message again. We need your help. He could feel the implications pressing against him, and a knot formed in his stomach. What had he agreed to take on? The idea of re-entering Luis's life felt like threading a needle with the weight of his own expectations twisted around it. But more than Luis, his thoughts shifted to the twins now caught in this tumultuous tapestry. How could he stand by, eyes closed, while those children faced uncertainty? It wasn't just a matter of support anymore, it was a moral obligation. He moved around the apartment, some instinct guiding him to gather himself. He needed clarity. He rummaged through his belongings, picking up old mementos designed to ground him while startling memories danced at the edges of his consciousness. An old baseball glove, a fragile trophy from a bygone season, whispers of a younger life that briefly seemed bright. The realization struck him he missed morals that transcended the greed and ambition he had tangled with for so many years. He had navigated through priorities shaped by success, the constant demands of a high-profile career pushing him further away from personal connections. In this moment, profound clarity settled over him. He would not let his past decisions dictate the present he so desperately wanted to shape. With renewed purpose, Marcus typed a response to Luis. What do you need? Tell me where you are. Before he could second-guess himself, he hit send. The wave of uncertainty receded, only to be replaced by an electric surge of determination. For every step Marcus took towards reconnecting with his family, the shadows of doubt hovered close, but he felt like he was standing at the dawn of something transformative. Every text and every call had become an integral thread, stitching his family back together. But the risks weighed heavy. The potential fallout of intertwining their lives with his again felt as daunting as it was necessary. He stepped outside, the relief of the cool night air brushing against his face like a promise. But the question lingered, would reconnecting with the past fortify his present, or would the ties that bind them only serve to unravel his newfound resolve? As he paced along the street, he glanced at the reflections in the shop windows, fragments of a man caught between the shadows of his past and the possibility of a brighter future. The tension began to mount again, waiting for the next moment that could redefine everything. A call from Ava, a chance encounter with Mia, or perhaps even finding the twins again. And then, as if choreographed by fate itself, his phone vibrated once more. It felt like an ignition point, a warning bell ringing loud and clear as he read the new message on the screen. They're not safe, Marcus. You need to act fast. Could he rise to the occasion, or would he be the architect of his own undoing? The answer felt just out of reach, but the stakes had just escalated. Marcus stared at his phone, the words blurring in front of his eyes. They're not safe, Marcus. You need to act fast. Every pulse of the text sent a shockwave through his body. This wasn't just a distant inconvenience, it was a direct call to action that threatened everything he had tried to protect: the twins, Ava, even his own fragile resolve. He had always measured success by possessions and titles, but in this moment, his heart raced with what was infinitely more valuable, the lives intertwined with his own decisions. Without a second thought, he began walking briskly toward his car, his mind racing. What if he was too late? What if they were already in danger? Those questions only intensified as he fumbled with his keys, anxiety tightening its grip. Focus, he muttered under his breath, sliding into the driver's seat. He turned the engine over, the rumbling reassuring him momentarily as he shifted into gear. With each block he drove, his thoughts spiraled. His relationship with Ava had always been complicated, but it was the twins Mia and the still unknown boy who weighed heavier on his heart. They did not deserve to be caught in a storm of uncertainty ignited by his choices. Navigating the streets felt surreal, the city's lights flashing by like a montage of lost opportunities. Memory surged, days spent with the twins at the park, laughter echoing in the air like music he longed to replay. Were his past decisions leading him to a dead end? Or could they carry him forward, toward redemption? Pulling up outside the bar where Luis had told him to meet felt like stepping into a trap. With a quick glance through the tinted windows, he scanned the scene, familiar faces mixed with shadows that felt foreign. The air was thick with smoke and tension, and Marcus's stomach churned as he shoved the car door open, stepping into the fray. Inside, the noise wrapped around him, but he had one mission: find Luis. He moved to the bar, where he found his former partner hunched over, nursing a drink that reflected his own confusion and desperation. "Nice to see you again, Marcus," Luis said, without looking up. His tone was laced with irony. "I didn't think you'd come." "Cut the small talk," Marcus demanded, pushing forward. "What's going on with the twins?" Luis finally met his gaze, his eyes dark and full of secrets. "I wish it was just the twins. They caught wind of something they shouldn't have. People are looking for them. It's bad." Marcus felt his heart drop. The stakes had ascended dramatically, and the reality of the danger unfolded in his mind like a cold, hard truth. "What do you mean bad? Who's after them? You need to start talking." Luis hesitated, a deep breath escaping as he weighed his next words. "There's a crew. They've been sniffing around for a while, trying to settle scores from the past. The twins, they saw something they weren't supposed to." Marcus cursed under his breath, the reality crashing down around him. He had tried to shield them from the worst of the world, and yet here they were, susceptibility illuminated under the spotlight of a history they did not ask for. "What do we do?" he pressed, urgency threading through his voice. "We need to get them out of here tonight." "But it's complicated. They aren't just scared, they're actively being hunted." Luis's words felt like ice slicing through Marcus's resolve, laying bare just how dangerous the situation had become. "Then we need a plan," Marcus replied, conviction lining his jaw. "No more running. I won't let them fall into danger just because we're caught up in this mess." As they concocted a strategy fraught with complications, a spark ignited within Marcus. This was no longer about escaping his past, it was about confronting it, taking ownership of not just his mistakes, but of the future for the twins and, perhaps, for himself. Yet the question resonated in the air, heavy with implications: could he truly protect them when the past loomed so large, ready to swallow them whole? The clock was ticking, the future unwritten, and the risks were mounting. Would he be able to navigate this dark maze, or would he find himself ensnared in the chaos he desperately sought to escape? With new determination coursing through his veins, he glanced back at Luis, ready to take his first step into the unfolding storm, the world outside no longer just shadows, but a battleground for what was left to save. "Let's get to work," he said, grounding himself in purpose, unaware of the deeper challenges that awaited him. Marcus's heart raced as he turned his focus back to the task at hand. There were layers of complexity to unravel, yet they had to act quickly. Luis's information buzzed in his mind like a swarm of angry bees. The kids were terrified, and the very thought of their uncertainty weighed heavily on him. As they began mapping out potential safe locations, Marcus felt an undercurrent of panic seeping through his initial determination. He could see the bar around him morphing into an arena, every corner teeming with potential threats. Conversations became background noise, symbols of his fractured world, echoing with caution and danger. Wasn't he better than this chaos? Yet here he was, trapped within its confines, a puppet tangled in his past strings. "Where do we find them?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence that had enveloped them like a dark cloud. It was critical to ground himself in action. He needed clarity, focus, and above all, a plan. Luis ran his fingers through his hair, visibly agitated. "They might be at the warehouse. It's out the only place I can think of where they'd go to hide. His eyes flicked to the door nervously. But it's not just about getting there. We need to handle the crew if they're on their way too. The words ignited a deeper resolve within Marcus. Handling the crew wasn't just about physical confrontation, it was about reclaiming his life and proving to himself that he wasn't the man molded by the past he was evolving. Do you have any support? He probed, hoping there would be allies in this desperate moment. Maybe one or two. But they're not reliable. A jolt of frustration coursed through Marcus. That's not good enough. We need to anticipate their moves. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about Mia and the boy. They can't know just how precarious the situation is. His voice was firm, devoid of any hesitation. Luis nodded, slowly recognizing the determination radiating from Marcus. I'll make a few calls, but we have to act fast. That crew is known for being ruthless. Marcus took a breath, grounding himself in that moment. He had built a life focused on wealth and power, yet here he stood, realizing that his true strength lay in the bonds he forged with others and the family he glimpsed through the chaos. The thought of losing the twins ignited a protective fire within him, one that eclipsed his past failures and insecurities. As they stood plotting their next move, the bar became a battleground in his mind, layers of life intertwining in a dark symphony of purpose. He had veered off a path of superficial success, now faced with the weight of real responsibility. Let us split up, he proposed. I'll scout the warehouse. Keep the phone on. I want to know the moment things change. Luis hesitated, concern written across his face. You can't do this alone. It's too dangerous. Not doing anything isn't an option, Luis. The sharpness of his voice surprised even him, but it was true. He'd been governed by fear long enough. If his journey had taught him anything, it was that courage often stood at the precipice of fear, waiting to be embraced. I'll meet you there. Be careful, Luis finally conceded, eyes narrowing as he processed the potential fallout of their actions. With that, Marcus stepped back into the bustling night. The air felt charged, pregnant with purpose. Every bounding step against the pavement echoed a newfound ambition to redefine who he was, not just for himself, but for the twins who depended on him. He couldn't shake off the gnawing doubt, though. Would he become the protector they needed? Was he ready to confront not just the encroaching danger but also the remnants of his past that threatened to taint his future? Each question twisted in his gut, but he suppressed the fear, focusing instead on the way forward. As he drove toward the warehouse, the city blurred past him in a hazy rush of apprehension and resolve. Yet there was something lurking in the back of his mind, an instinct that told him the weight of this confrontation would stretch far beyond mere threats to the twins' safety. The moment was approaching, one that would test the very limits of his growth and redefine him once again. It was time to face who he had been and who he aspired to become. Would he rise to the occasion, or would the shadows of his past drag him down once more? The stakes were higher than ever, and he was about to discover just what he was truly capable of amidst the gathering storm. As Marcus neared the warehouse, the weight of his choices hung in the air, thickening the tension in his chest. The shadows deepened with each passing moment, the once familiar streets now seemed like uncharted territory, fraught with uncertainty. A flicker of intuition set off alarms in his mind. This wasn't merely a rescue mission, it was an awakening. Pulling into a deserted parking lot, Marcus cut the engine, heart pounding against his ribs like a caged animal. He leaned against the steering wheel, shutting his eyes for a brief moment. The fears that had always threatened to consume him stirred beneath the surface, whispering poisonous doubts. You won't be enough. You can't protect them. But this time, he would not let those thoughts dominate him. Equipped with a determination that had blossomed from deep within, he commanded his thoughts to align with his intent. I will be enough, he murmured under his breath. For them, I have to be. Emerging from the car, he moved quietly, a predator drawn forward by an instinctual pull. The warehouse loomed ahead, an industrial fortress that had been repurposed for sinister dealings. Glancing at the perimeter, he noted the faint outlines of figures lurking in the shadows. The crew wasn't just a rumor, they were here close enough to sniff his fear. His mind raced, mapping an escape route even as adrenaline sharpened his awareness. Each step resonated with a newfound sense of purpose. This was his arena now, and he refused to be the one dragged down by his past mistakes. Taking a deep breath, Marcus honed in on the task ahead. He had come too far, learned too much, to slip back into the complacency that had once defined him. With a strategic hand, he retrieved his phone. The crackling screen illuminated his face. Scouring through contacts, he hesitated for just a moment before tapping on a name: James, an acquaintance from his business days. The potential for aid gleamed in his mind, an undercurrent of courage pushing him forward. "James," Marcus said when his call connected. "I need you to listen closely. It's urgent." He explained the situation succinctly, feeling the gravity settle on his shoulders. "I know you have access to resources. I need backup now." "Yes, of course," James replied, his voice steady, instantly part of this transformation Marcus was igniting within himself. "I'll send a few men your way. Just hold tight." The transaction completed, Marcus felt a rush of empowerment flooding through him, intertwining seamlessly with the urgency of the mission. He was evolving in real time, every decision a step away from the past that had threatened to consume him. As he inched closer to the warehouse entrance, a sense of clarity enveloped him. He could see his reflection in the windows more than just a billionaire in designer clothes. He was a father ready to face the darkness for his children. The man whose past had defined him for so long was being replaced by someone more profound: a protector, an ally, a warrior willing to confront the complexities of his own life. His chest tightened as he prepared to breach the threshold. In the next moment, an unmistakable voice suddenly shattered the silence that enveloped him, freezing him in place. It was Mia calling out to someone, but her words drifted into a haunting echo of desperation. He listened carefully, heart hammering in his ears, anchored by a new determination. He couldn't turn back now. The moment of truth had arrived. He had to confront not just the crew, but also the moral undertow of his past. What would he do when old allies turned into foes? The impending confrontation would unravel everything. As he clasped the door handle, they would all soon learn just how far he had come. Would they recognize the power of his evolution, or would the familiar shadows rise to claim him once more? With every ounce of resolve he possessed, he pushed the door open, ready to step into chaos. The door creaked on its hinges as Marcus stepped into the dimly lit warehouse. The air was thick with tension, and the shadows seemed to coil around him. He could barely see beyond a few feet, but his instincts were razor-sharp, directing his gaze toward movement in the corners, the rustle of bodies. Each sound echoed with the potential for danger. Mia's voice broke through the oppressive silence, clear yet trembling. "I said let her go." The desperation in her tone ignited a furious blaze within Marcus, propelling him forward. He had come too far to let fear dictate his actions. He had to be the man he was becoming, not the man he used to be. As he advanced, the outlines of several figures became clearer. They were rough, hardened by an underworld existence, but what caught his attention was the sight of Mia, her back facing him, arms up in a futile defense as she confronted one of their captors. The sight of her standing against the odds infused him with urgency, but it also forced him to confront his own inadequacies. Could he truly protect her? Could he save them both? "Step away from her," Marcus commanded, his voice booming even as uncertainty gnawed at him. The figures turned, their faces morphing from surprise to malicious grins. Those smiles spurred him on. He would not allow them to see him falter. Mia caught a glimpse of him and her eyes widened with a cocktail of relief and disbelief. The air around them thickened with an electric tension, charged with the potential for violence. "Marcus, you shouldn't have come," she stammered, but the words didn't deter him. He had made his choice, it was too late to turn back. One of the captors stepped forward, a tattooed arm flexing menacingly. "And what are you going to do, rich boy? You really think you can protect her?" There was a sneer to his tone, a challenge thrown at Marcus' feet like a gauntlet. The taunt struck a nerve, awakening a fury that he had often tried to suppress. This was more than a personal encounter, this was a defining moment where his evolution would be tested. I'll do what I need to do, Marcus replied, drawing on every ounce of resolve he had cultivated. Memories of his past failures swirled in his mind, but he pushed them aside. Every moment leading up to this had been a lesson, each disappointment a stepping stone. He had become stronger. It was time to show that strength. As the confrontation escalated, Marcus felt a rush of adrenaline surge through him. With every instinct honed by years of navigating the corporate labyrinth and the tumult of his personal life, he began anticipating their next moves. Thinking strategically, he silently mapped out a way to create panic, a distraction that would offer Mia a chance to escape. "Hey!" he yelled suddenly, drawing their complete attention. "You want her? Come and take her." It was a reckless, desperate gambit, but in that moment of boldness, he discovered a newfound courage within himself. This was not just about rescuing Mia, but also about reclaiming his place not just as a protector but as a man of action. The crew members shifted, allowing Marcus to create a sliver of chaos amongst them. It was now or never. They saw him as just another cowardly billionaire, but Marcus was ready to shatter that misconception. He squared his shoulders, ready to fight if it came to that, a fight for Mia, a fight for his children, a fight for his transformation. As fists started to fly, and chaos ignited around them, the real battle was only beginning. What would this confrontation reveal about Marcus' journey? Would he rise from the ashes of his past, or would it drag him back into the abyss? In the midst of chaos, he caught Mia's gaze. There was hope in her eyes, but also fear. He would have to make the ultimate choice. Would he embrace the darker side of this world, or would he find a way to surface intact, salvaging not only their lives but his redemption? Knowing that time was slipping away like sand through his fingers, Marcus lunged forward. The moment had come to face not just the crew but to embrace the truth he had fought so hard. To uncover the truth about himself. Marcus hurled himself into the fray, adrenaline sharpening his senses to a dangerous edge. The cacophony of fists and grunts felt surreal, like a scene pulled from a dark and gritty film where every blow resonated not only physically, but deep within his psyche. This was the moment of truth he'd long awaited, a brutal arena to finally confront the man he had been versus the one he wanted to become. He grabbed hold of a nearby metal pipe, its surface cool and unforgiving in his grip. The first enemy lunged at him, swinging wildly, but as he dodged, Marcus flared with newfound agility. The years spent in boardrooms and corporate negotiations had dulled his physicality, but here, in this visceral moment, he felt and saw potential he had long buried. He sidestepped, his footwork more fluid than he ever anticipated, and in one swift motion, he swung the pipe toward the attacker. There was a crack, an exhalation of breath, and the thud crumpled to the ground. The sight of him collapsing sparked a fierce thrill deep inside Marcus, mingling with anxiety. Was he reveling in violence? Or was it the sheer disbelief that he could unleash this side of himself that drove him to push harder? Each movement opened a door to a world he had kept locked away, the world of resilience, power, and primal defense. It wasn't just Mia's safety, it was his redemption, a chance to embody the strength he had once thought belonged only to others. He scanned the frenzied chaos, spotting Mia's silhouette gripping the edge of the nearest crate. Her eyes were wide, reflecting shards of determination intertwined with fear as she yelled for him to be careful. That voice tethered him to his purpose. He wasn't merely fighting against those men, he was fighting for her and for every part of himself that had been trapped by self-doubt and regret. The second captor came at him, fists balled, confidence viscerally palpable. This time, Marcus anticipated the swing and blocked it sideways, pushing back with an urgency that surprised even him. The shift in power felt electric, coursing through him like a second heartbeat. With each clash, he could feel the affirmation of his own evolution. This was the man he had aspired to be: bold, decisive, and unafraid. As he grappled with his opponent, he felt a flicker of doubt creep in. This wasn't him. This violence, this chaos, it felt foreign yet liberating. Could he reconcile this aggression with the life he wanted to lead? No matter how intoxicating the fight felt, he knew that losing himself to the darkness was not the goal. The shadowy allure of brutality was tempting, but destructiveness wouldn't save them. Only clarity could guide him through. Moments later, he knocked the man down hard and turned to see Mia edging closer, fear and reverence mingling on her face. She shook off the panic and nodded at him, her expression hastening his resolve. This was not just an escape, this was a burgeoning partnership, a shared fight. He no longer saw himself as merely the protector, they were in this together. As the remaining assailants regrouped around him, their menacing growls echoed through the warehouse. Another wave of panic tightened within him as he realized this wasn't just about physical prowess, this was about strategy. Reflecting on past failures linked to overconfidence and his business ambitiousness, Marcus understood that true power lay in a calculated approach driven by renewed purpose. He began to scan the room, quickly plotting an escape route. Together, they needed to channel their strengths, to outsmart the danger. As two more men approached, he signaled to Mia, hoping his instincts for leadership would prevail. This wasn't just about survival, it was about making choices, not out of fear but out of hope for a better future. "Let us go," he shouted as he executed a plan in his mind, ready to face whatever came next. For the first time in his life, he felt the pressure of impending danger move him forward, not backward. What would they face beyond these doors? The journey ahead was uncertain, but he could no longer allow doubt to hold him back. Together, they pressed into the unknown, determined to carve out their own fate. As they sprinted towards the exit, he felt a rush of exhilaration. It was time to face the world, not as a billionaire hiding behind a veneer of privilege, but as a man unearthing his latent potential in the midst of chaos. Would he emerge stronger from this ordeal, or would the shadows of his past continue to haunt him? In the aftermath of the chaos, Marcus stood in the dimly lit warehouse, the sounds of the struggle fading into silence, echoing the tumult within him. The remnants of fear and adrenaline coursed through his veins, breathing life into a long-forgotten resolve. He caught Mia's gaze wide and searching for assurance and knew that this moment was pivotal. He had not only saved her but had reclaimed a part of himself he thought lost forever under the weight of greed and ambition. The shadows of his past no longer felt suffocating, they felt transformative. In the throes of battle, instinct became his guide, and now, clarity began to settle around him like a protective mantle. As they emerged from the warehouse, the night air struck him with clarity. The streetlights bathed the world in a soft glow, a stark contrast to the dimness they had just escaped. He breathed in deeply, inhaling hope alongside the crisp chill of the evening, a reminder that he could step away from the darkness that had once defined his life. Mia walked by his side, her head high, confidence blooming like the flowers that would soon pierce through the frost of winter. She had witnessed his transformation, seen his courage lit from within, and now he wanted to see that flicker of pride reflected in her young eyes. "Marcus, I can't believe what just happened," she whispered, her voice filled with awe rather than fear. He turned to her, the look on her face inspiring a burst of warmth that spread through his chest. Those were not just words of gratitude, they were validation of his journey, of the bridge he had built back toward them. "I wouldn't let them take you, Mia. I wouldn't let anything take you or your sister again." Mia nodded, the flicker of innocence within her safeguarded by the newfound strength he had shown. It was in that fleeting moment that Marcus recognized the cornerstone of his existence had shifted. No longer could he be defined only by wealth. Instead, he had reaffirmed his role as a father, as a protector, as a man capable of standing up for something beyond himself. The choice to act, to stand against fear and aggression, had unveiled the man he'd always aspired to be. As they walked, a realization struck Marcus. He had transformed from a figure shrouded in isolation into someone committed to nurturing connections, no longer afraid of vulnerability. His past no longer owned him, he had taken control. The chilling sensation of the past clamping down on him like a vice was replaced by the solid grip of confidence. When they reached the car, he turned to Mia again, understanding that this was merely the beginning of their journey. "I want to be present in your lives, for real. I want to get to know you and your sister. Will you help me?" Her smile broke through the tension lingering in the air. "You already are. Just be here. That's all we need." An unfamiliar warmth spread through Marcus's heart. That was it. His resolved spirit surged. He promised himself he would work toward giving them not just support but genuine presence, time, and love. Moments became monumental, evenings spent at the park turned into something far more meaningful, lessons playing out in laughter and trust. Days turned into weeks, and week by week, he witnessed the restoration of their family unit not merely in sporadic reunions but through everyday connections. "Let's go grab ice cream," he would say, "or I'll pick you up from school." Each small action reinforced a structure of trust, nurturing relationships built on love and shared experiences. He received positive responses at work, too. The realization that he could balance success and a family life became a palpable truth, inspiring his colleagues. As he navigated the waters of corporate strategy and infrastructure, he intertwined those lessons with familial values, creating a synergy previously unknown in his life. Months later, he stood before his employees, addressing them at a corporate seminar, the spotlight shining bright against his tailored suit. Yet it was the sense of solid confidence emanating from within that dimmed the brightness of the room. "I realized something crucial," he began, eyes scanning the audience, including his daughters who beamed with pride. "Success is not just about profit margins or acquisitions, it's about creating connections that last. It's about family and being the person you were meant to be." The applause echoed, but it was the knowing nods from Mia and Ava that struck a deeper chord. They saw him now not just as the wealthy figure from their past, but as their dad, their protector, their unwavering support. Clarity lit up his world, solidifying his commitment to remain an active participant in their lives. With each passing moment, each decision propelled him further from the chains of his past and deeper into the role he had fought to reclaim. It was suffocating what he once feared most, but now, the agony of regret was replaced with exhilaration. He finally understood his impact. The journey had not been seamless, it had demanded relentless work, but the reward lay more in growth than recognition. It was the satisfaction of facing the trials of vulnerability head-on, learning that being a father meant so much more than being present. It meant nurturing a bond fortified with unwavering trust. "It's never too late," he thought, a mantra now engraved in his spirit. As he left the seminar, children's laughter danced around him, the echoes of unbroken connections propelling him forward into a future of continued transformation. He was back, and he knew this time, he was home. Now, if you relate to his journey of transformation, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm because every reaction counts. Comment your thoughts and theories about this incredible conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring story. Don't wait even one more second to join the ranks of true fans who understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.